Ark examines his new attendant and comes to the conclusion that he's drop-dead gorgeous, so much so that Ark finds it unfair. The attendant seems to have only begrudgingly accepted this new posting, and he remarks that Clave's act of doing so was highly whimsical. Ark can't help but notice the attendant's exhausted and exasperated sigh. The man steps forward, bows, and introduces himself as No. Ark replies rather meekly, prompting No to tell him not to address him so formally, as doing so may make him an object of mockery. Ark reasons that he has been disinherited from the Wraithef family, but No says that this is only for the time being. What matters from now on is what Ark plans to do. Ark remembers the determination that led him to this position in the first place, and the fire returns to his eyes. No looks at him more kindly. Clave boasts that No will be able to teach him all the best practices and exercises, and No retorts that Clave could hardly have served as that example. It turns out that No was only told that he'd be serving Ark just that morning. Ark asks No if it's really okay for him to be leaving Clave, but No replies that it isn't a problem, stating that change can be exciting. He reveals that he only became Clave's servant in the first place because he knew that it would be exciting. That alone was a good enough reason for him. Ark turns to Clave with a face of abject disbelief. After a hearty laugh, Clave tells Ark that he can trust No without a doubt. No was at the top of his class at the Magic Academy, earning for himself the title of Winter Wonder Kid. His skills, swordsmanship, and knowledge of the country's history and culture are all top-notch. Ark is visibly impressed by No's credentials. No thanks Clave for the summarized rundown of his resume, but he prefers to show, not tell. No wears a special gloves so that he can demonstrate one of his favorite spells. A magic circle appears beneath No's feet as he recites the incantation for his signature spell. The ground in front of him suddenly freezes over, as though an ice age had temporarily swept through. This is No's freezing gale. No explodes with a childlike wonder, and he asks if No developed it himself. No explains that it is an adapted, improvised, and improved version of the basic Icy Breeze spell. Impressed, Ark jots something on his notepad. No curiously asks what he is doing, and Ark explains that he was measuring the ether consumed by the spell in units of mana. No reacts with shock. Clave had not briefed him that Ark could do such a thing. Ark and No move on to swordsmanship sparring. Though Ark shows considerable skill for his age, he is absolutely no match for someone who has already graduated from college. Ark suffers 10 straight defeats, and No ends the sparring session here. Ark whines that he couldn't get even a single hit in, and No chastises him for attempting rather bold and ambitious maneuvers. Ark realizes that he was trying to copy the kendo techniques he had in his memories, and he decides to wait for his growth spurt before trying them again. No looks at Ark rather cautiously. The young boy has proven to be a quick learner, but what impresses him most of all is the ether thermometer that he had invented. No looks at Ark's strange device inquisitively, and he is shocked to learn that Ark invented and developed it all on his own, with some final touches made by Clave. Ark asks No if he can cast every spell he can so that he can accurately measure the mana costs of each move. No asks him what this is for, and Ark replies that he wants to build a database for the ether thermometer before he inevitably releases it to the public, as well as help with his own spell design. No smiles. Ark is even more impressive and fascinating than he thought. Clave lets out a hearty laugh. He told No that Ark was special, he just didn't say why. No asks Ark if he'd be willing to lend him an ether thermometer, and Ark graciously agrees. He doesn't even need to ask No to keep it a secret, he already knows to. Ark digs around his backpack and retrieves 3 different ether thermometers, each with different scales and measures for ether. No burns up with even more anticipation. He observes Ark trying to stretch, only to trip on his own 2 feet. A truly fascinating child. Before anything else, No reminds Ark that it's time for his next engagement. At the Magician's Guild, Sylvester is informed by one of his butlers that he is to be meeting Clave and 2 others. Sylvester wonders aloud if Clave is up to something again, and his butler replies that secret conversations and plots in a soundproof room should be nothing new. Sylvester takes long, confident strides toward the meeting room. Knowing that Clave hasn't produced notable research in a while, he has high hopes that he is up to something. Sylvester enters the room and startles Ark. Ark audibly shrieks and flinches, prompting him to profusely apologize while Clave and No snicker in the background. Sylvester clears his throat and asks Clave why he brought his daughter. Clave, confused, replies that Ark is his nephew. Ark politely introduces himself and Sylvester tells him that he looks like a girl. Setting aside his questionable appearance, he takes his seat and asks what they've come here to discuss. However, he is interrupted by one of his maids. However, his impatience, coupled with her inherent meekness and fear, causes her to repeatedly bow down and beg for forgiveness and mercy. Ark is also afraid that Sylvester might kill her and sink her body to the bottom of the sea. Sylvester doesn't know how to deal with this. After finally regaining her bearings, the maid presents a small selection of tea and snacks, but Ark explains that he isn't too fond of sweets. Clave and Noah call him weird for this. With that exhausting exchange out of the way, Sylvester finally manages to sit down. Clave places the ether thermometer on the desk and explains that it is a device that can accurately measure ether. Sylvester almost can't believe his ears. Such a thing should be impossible, but Clave says that it is. The device works by reacting to exposed ether. Sylvester thinks that Clave developed it, but Clave points towards Ark, who appears to be shrinking in his seat. Sylvester doubts it. Ark is just a child, no more than 10 years old. Sylvester tests the ether thermometer out, and to his astonishment, it really does work. However, it comes with two key limitations. The range is rather short, and it can't be used to detect ether. Still, the device can bring untold financial gains for the country. Sylvester is surprised, as they had plenty to personally gain from keeping this a secret. He asks Ark what he intends to gain from announcing this creation, and Ark replies that he'd like money and access to the texts of etheric studies, as much as the country of Laner can allow. Sylvester smiles. Despite Ark's age, he's a magician through and through. However, while Ark is undeniably a magician, Sylvester also views him as a very atypical child. Clave jokes that Ark approached him one day asking to be taught magic, and now he's making his own spells. The smile disappears from Sylvester's face. Creating an original spell is a final task given to the Royal Academy of Magic before they graduate, and less than 10% actually come up with anything practical. The only other person who can do such a thing at Ark's age is the prince. Sylvester's opinion of Ark continues to improve. He asks Clave if they've shown this product to the king, but Clave shakes his head. He knows that the king would prioritize things like production goals and economic contracts, not the inherent magical value of the ether thermometer. Sylvester warns him that the king won't be happy that he wasn't the first person told. Ark is worried that they're badmouthing the king, but Clave tells him not to worry. He, Sylvester, and the king were all actually old buddies. With their business concluded, Clave, Noel, and Ark prepare to depart, while Sylvester moves to make his own preparations for the ether thermometer. He tries to give Ark one of the sample devices back, but he is allowed to keep it as a present. Before Clave walks out the door, Sylvester calls his attention, and they both perform a salute for the king. Later, Ark meets Sue for a study session. When she notices the bandage on his cheek, he explains his domestic situation to her. Sue is in distress over the situation, and though Ark has gotten used to the beatings by now, he thanks her for her concern regardless. From Sue's point of view, Ark isn't so different from other magicians she's seen. She's correct. As Clave had told him before, Ark's magic actually exceeds that of some government officials. The problem is that his ether pales compared to what the Wraithef family expects of him. Sue asks him why he's trying so hard to improve his magic if he no longer has a reason to. Ark sheepishly replies that he wants to prove his family wrong, and Sue finds his reasoning rather childish and immature. Ark begins to reconsider his reasoning for trying to learn magic, but Sue reassures him that it's still as good a reason as any. It's a better option than doing nothing, and it means that he's moving forward and trying to face his problems head-on. Sue remarks that Ark could just as easily have asked Clave to keep him away from everyone else, but instead, Ark asked to be taught magic. Sue finds that very impressive. Ark is comforted by her support. Sue tells him that he should start thinking about the bigger picture soon and what he should do after he exacts his revenge. Ark ponders this for a moment and suggests that he could become a state magician. Sue is unimpressed by this goal, even though Ark explains that there are only 11 state magicians in the country. Sue says that life is more fun if your goals are larger than life, so she suggests that he try to become a general or a top-ranking noble instead. Ark doubts that he could do either, so Sue settles for those as Ark's goals. Ark repeats that he thinks that those goals are beyond him, but Sue is confident that he can make it, one way or another. Ark promises to do what he can, and Sue encourages him to be greedier if he wants to attain his goals. Ark asks her if she has any goals for the future, and she replies that she does. She wants to make the country strong enough to overpower all those who oppose it. Sue mutters that the neighboring empire always looks down on them. The mountainous tribes threaten their northern borders, while the maritime nations to the south undermine their national interests. She can feel that war is brewing, so she wants to strengthen Laner to battle against any threat. Terrifying words coming from a 9-year-old. Sue tries to play off everything she just said as something she just read from a book. Ark remarks that Sue makes it seem like the country is oppressed, but she just shrugs the matter off. Changing the topic, she notices something sticking out of Ark's pocket. He whips out his ether thermometer and asks her what she thinks it is. She replies by describing that it is used the same way as a suppository. Ark regrets asking that question, and he explains what his ether thermometer can do. Sue asks him where he got it from, and he drops the bomb, saying that he made it himself. He demonstrates its use by releasing a small amount of ether, which he explains is enough to use the psychokinesis spell. Sue starts staring at him like she wants one really, really badly, but Ark refuses to hand it over. He only showed it to her because he knew that she'd complain if she found out later. Still, Sue tries to yank it away from his hands, but Ark refuses to let go, stating that he's about to go public with them. Sue tries to yank it out of his hands, and Ark relents, promising to let her use it when they're together. An elated Sue gives him a friendly pinch on the cheek. 2 years later, a crowd is abuzz with hushed whispers as the elegant form of the Wraitheft heiress makes her appearance. Lesha attends an upper-class ball with her father, Josh, who tells her that they are within the vast estate of Lord Gaston. He tells her to pay close attention. They encounter Count Perce, whom Josh addresses with a great degree of respect. Perce is the patriarch of the Cremelia family, a noble clan that commands all the great eastern houses, which include the Wraithfits. Perce's daughter, Charlotte, also makes an appearance. Josh compliments the young girl on her appearance, and she replies with a curtsy. Charlotte asks Lesha where Ark is, and she sullenly replies that he is not in attendance. Josh interjects and uses the opportunity to inform Perce that he is officially ending the engagement between Ark and Charlotte. Perce asks if this has something to do with Ark's expulsion, and Josh confirms that it does. Perce fears that the decision to disinherit Ark was made too hastily, but Josh insists on maintaining a certain standard within the family. Perce alludes to an earlier, similar instance, possibly Clade's expulsion, intended as a light jab towards Joshy's line of thinking. Still, Josh insists on ending the engagement matter. Perce tells Charlotte that it is better to accept Joshy's wishes. Josh, noting Charlotte's hesitancy, sees it fit that the engagement be annulled. Perce notes that Ark is now under Clave's guidance, and Josh assures him that Clave only sympathizes with the boy. Ark will not improve. Perce raises an eyebrow, but before he can offer a rebuttal, the host of the party arrives. Lord Gaston, a Marquess, is met with fevered applause. Sporting a villainous mustache and gold chains around his neck, Gaston is the spitting image of a mid-tier villain. Gaston mingles with his guests, and when he spots Perce, he hurries over to greet them. Likewise, Josh lowers his head and thanks Gaston for the invitation. Gaston urges him to enjoy himself. As predicted, there are many unsavory rumors surrounding Gaston. His work in financial and national affairs has earned him great gains, but most of it is thought to be ill-gotten. No one's rich as Gaston, no one blackmails like Gaston, and no one commits embezzlement and fraud quite like Gaston. Despite his reputation, Charlotte was forced to come along to maintain appearances. As the party goes into full swing, Charlotte and Lesha retreat to the balcony. Though both recognize these sorts of gatherings as politically important, Charlotte can't help but loathe the people in attendance. She fears that the commoners won't tolerate the increasing taxes much longer, worsened by Gaston's corruption. Charlotte moves on to more lighthearted topics, and she asks Lesha what Ark is like. Lesha speaks highly of her brother, whom she describes as a marvel and a never-ending source of surprises and inspiration. Lesha asks Charlotte what sort of man she'd prefer, and Charlotte replies that she'd like a strong man. She'd never accept someone scrawny. Lesha informs her that Ark shares her physique, which disappoints Charlotte. Lesha is secretly relieved. She'd have hated to have Ark depart the estate so quickly. Suddenly, a disheveled man crawls out of the bushes, clutching a large suitcase in his arms. After checking that no one else is around, he explains that he is from the Royal Ministry of Justice, and he pleads with them to hold on to the mysterious case in his hands. Lesha and Charlotte are unsettled. Lesha rushes to the estate, clutching the briefcase in her tiny arms. After asking No for his whereabouts, she rushes into Ark's room, where he is busy working on his experiments. Ark, unaware of what is about to unfold, eagerly asks Lesha if she enjoyed the party. Gaston is livid to discover that they're missing a few important documents. He is initially relieved to find out that they've only lost a few financial records, but he is troubled that one of their secret ledgers has gone missing. Gaston leans toward his desk. That's way more terrifying than some financial records going missing. He asks them for details of the document's disappearance, and his servant explains that they've apprehended a suspect who no longer had the missing documents. However, he also reports that Lesha was spotted leaving the party with a strange case that did not match her dress at all. Gaston, realizing what is at stake, asks for Lesha to be brought to his estate in secret, where he'll persuade her to return the documents. Ark is in uproar over the sensitivity and importance of the documents that Lesha brought with her. They are undeniable proof of Gaston's corruption. Lesha remarks that the man who handed it over to her made her promise not to tell her father. Ark asks Lesha what she wants to do. The documents were entrusted to her, but she has no obligation to cooperate with the Ministry of Justice agent. Lesha, having been raised to believe in noblesse oblige, insists on doing what the agent asks of her. She is prepared to put herself in danger for the sake of justice, as she can no longer turn a blind eye. Ark, impressed, puts a plan into motion. The next morning, Lesha informs Charlotte that she has entrusted the case and documents to Ark. Since no one in the house associates with him, he's the perfect person and hiding place. Charlotte finds this encouraging, and she finds it a shame that Ark isn't her physical type. She hears someone approach them from behind, and she grabs Lesha's arm to try and run away. However, she noticed too late. They're surrounded. What's with young nobles and walking down unpopulated streets? Charlotte demands that the men identify themselves, as if they would have if she asked nicely. One of them grabs Lesha, prompting Charlotte to cut the man's arm off. In response, another man charges at her, but she effortlessly steps out of the way and points her sword at his throat. She informs them that they are attacking members of the nobility, but all the man does is snicker. Charlotte realizes that they know who they are attacking. Another man attacks her from behind, but again, she fends him off. She possesses a gift that allows her to see her opponent's next move, foresight. With this ability, she won't lose, she can't lose. The leader steps forward to handle the fiery youth himself. Charlotte wonders aloud if he'll reveal who sent them if she can defeat him. The leader offhandedly promises to. Charlotte steps forward with blinding agility, avoiding every strike sent her way. She then thrusts her sword into the man's plate armor, which she fails to penetrate. The man raises her sword at the now vulnerable Charlotte, who realizes that despite her superior ability, she will lose solely on the fact that the man is stronger than her. Acknowledging that she cannot win against such odds, she quietly sheathes her sword. The man commends her for making the correct decision. The worst part is that the other dude had his hand sliced off for nothing. Charlotte apologizes to Lesha. She had hoped that she could at least help her escape, but this is the only option that lets them both survive. The two girls quietly accept their fates, and Lesha silently begs for her brother to come and save them. Later, Ark receives a letter from one of the house servants. Ark finds it odd that the maid isn't verbally abusing him. Ark asks where Lesha is, and she informs him that she left the house earlier. Ark exclaims, "Those rat bastards," before shakingly telling No that his sister's been kidnapped. The letter demands that Ark bring the ledger to the plaza at the slums, threatening to kill them both if he refuses. This tells Ark that someone other than Lesha has been taken. No asks what this ledger is, and Ark explains that it was something that Lesha was given at the party, and that it contains evidence of Gaston's corruption. No is angry that Ark kept something so big a secret, but he contains himself for now. What's important is that they must find Lesya. The fact that they suspect her means that something must have happened to the person who gave the suitcase to her. Ark is angry that Lesha was involved in such a conspiracy. No believes that Lesha's life is not in any immediate danger. Ark echoes his sentiment. It'd be foolhardy to kill the daughter of a Viscount. No suggests that they inform someone else of the situation, so Ark instructs him to inform Clave as he has more authority than Josh. On the other hand, Ark intends to head to the plaza alone. No doubts that the letter was sent in good faith, but that's exactly what Ark is counting on. He intends to let himself get captured and later escape with Lesha and the other prisoner. If he fails to escape, then he will count on No to make things work while he buys time. No has a feeling that he'll have to do as instructed either way, which proves to be a massive headache. The plan is that as soon as Ark locates Lesha, No is to send Clave in to do his thing. However, things won't end with Lesha's rescue. Ark still has to deal with a few more unanswered questions, like what the government agent was doing at the party and why he gave the ledger to Lesya. Ark has a bad feeling about all this, and he asks No to look into something else for him. Later, Ark carries the ledger suitcase to the slums, noticing that the whole place seems deserted. The hired mercenaries come pouring out of their hiding places, and they ask if Ark is who he says he is. Ark observes their bodies, noting that despite the mismatched armor, they seem disciplined. The leader instructs Ark to follow them, but Ark refuses, and he draws his sword and demands his sister be returned to him. Ark pretends to be a useless fighter by letting the sword slip out of his hand, causing the mercenaries to laugh at him. To his chagrin, the mercenaries know that he's the useless son of the Wraithefs. They also heard that he was girly, unable to use magic, unathletic, and also girly. Did they mention he was girly? Though annoyed, Ark continues to keep up his useless brother act. It doesn't make him feel any better though. Ark is tossed into the back of a carriage and the mercenaries dig through the suitcase. To his relief, the mercenaries are illiterate and thus have no way of discerning if the documents are the real deal. Ark passes through the first stage of his plan. Ark is brought to Gaston's estate, filled with lavish decor and vain statues of the Count. Ark is brought before Gaston himself, and he demands that his sister be released. Gaston looks over the documents and quickly discerns that they aren't the ones he's looking for. Ark pretends that the government official took them back, but Gaston sees through his lies. Ark admits that he left the real documents at home, and he begs for a chance to get them back on the condition that his sister be released. However, Gaston wants to ensure that nothing goes awry. One of the mercenaries suggests throwing Ark into the same cell with the girls, which is what Ark has been aiming for this whole time. However, to his surprise, Gaston instead has him taken to the Holy Tower, as Ark still hails from a family with a martial background. He's heard the rumors that Ark is said to be a pitifully weak child, but there's a chance that it's all an act. Gaston's decision is final, and Ark will be taken to the Holy Tower. With both of the Wraithef children missing, it's only a matter of time before the place is in disarray. That's when Gaston intends to send in some men to grab the evidence. On the other hand, he intends to have the girls disposed of. Ark warns Gaston that he cannot so easily kill the daughter of a viscount, but Gaston thinks quite the opposite. It isn't unusual for noble children to go missing, and he can ensure that his money will cover his tracks. He tells Ark that the world runs on money. Money is power. Money can solve any problem, and those who say it can't just don't have enough money. Money ensures Gaston can mold the world to his liking. Ark, aggravated, tries to struggle free, but the mercenary gives him a solid chop to the back of the neck. Ark faints like the weakling the mercenary thought he was. Gaston asks him if he's ever met a terrifying child, because he has. The Prince of Laner is the most gifted magician that the kingdom has ever seen. He views him and the royal family as inhuman beings, born with the sole role of leading and ruling a country. He notes that Ark's eyes mirrored the prince's. Even though Ark played the role of a weakling, he could tell from his eyes that he wasn't afraid in the slightest. That's what scares him. It wasn't like talking to a child at all. Eventually, Ark awakens and finds himself in front of the Holy Tower, a prison from which escape is said to be impossible. A guard makes his rounds through the hallways and notices that a man named Gary is still in his cell. His prison term ended long ago, but Gary isn't in a rush to escape. Here, he has a clean room and top-notch room service. The face finally has a name. Kazi Gary, the very same person who attempted to kidnap Ark.